Good morning, everybody, and there is the rat race, the proverbial rat race. I am retired, and let's talk about it because we had a viewer yesterday, Eugene, who reached out and basically said, isn't that getting stale? You're way too young to retire. This is very much feeling like Groundhog Day. All you do is walk and talk and drink your coffee. Isn't that getting boring and stale? Isn't there more in life? Shouldn't you be traveling? And not verbatim, but that's basically the comment that we got from Eugene yesterday about retirement and what it means for somebody like myself that's early retired at 53, 54. And I really have to talk about this because there's a couple of points to this. He references the point of Groundhog Day. And Groundhog Day to me is the repeat, right? I mean, we've all seen the movie. You go to sleep, you think, oh, that was a terrible day. You get up, and then it's all over again. It starts all over the same time, the same place, same clothes. Everything feels the same, and you just keep this rinse, lather, repeat, and this sensation of nothing ever changes. And Eugene, yes, there is certainly always going to be an element of that. And so I want to address this with all the due respect, because that is an easy trap that a lot of people can get into. And I've talked about this already in other videos. But let me just start by saying, first of all, and I'll explain what my week looked like here as an example. When, people probably see me walking and talking like this thinking, that's all he does is walk and talk and drink a cup of coffee, and that's his day. But that's not it. Actually, I've had a pretty busy week, and the week before that was busy, and the week before that was busy. Things have not really slowed down at all for me in that way. I've just found different ways to utilize my time. And so I'll explain what my schedule looked like this week, because I think for a lot of people that are contemplating retirement or are in retirement, sometimes stall out and do feel like they're have nowhere to go or nothing to do. So, first of all, as the phrase retirement goes, it's basically a retreat or a retraction from your occupation, your working career. And the way I see that is essentially the 9 to 5, the hustle, bustle, the grind. That's in fact what retirement is. And I've done that. I'm no longer working for the grind. I'm no longer working for the guy that's pushing down and bearing down on you. Kind of, are you done yet? Are you done yet? Are you done yet? That whole conversation. And so the first thing I want to mention about the Groundhog Day element, it's funny because there's this reference of me walking and talking, and anybody in retirement who's out there just sort of gets up, does their work, kind of puts their socks on left-footed first and right foot first with your pants, and then kind of get your baseball cap and head on down to the local store and maybe get your free samples at Costco, and this kind of goes on and on. If we want to talk about Groundhog Day, 9 to 5 career employment is Groundhog Day in its truest form. And that's why I had to get out of it with all of the exclusion and stabbing, back shivving, and all these things that were going on in my work environment. And it wouldn't stop. It just kept going on and on. That was a bad day that kept repeating itself. That was Groundhog Day. And I know most people, not everyone, most people get in this cycle where they work at their career and it becomes Groundhog Day. You get up, you put your shoes on, you head on, you grab whether it's your laptop, whether it's your work boots and hard hat, whatever kind of job you've got, you grab your gear, you put it on, you go in your car, you warm it up for 45 seconds, you set off, you fight the same traffic, you look at the same car, oh, look at, there's that little red car next to me, I see him again and again. And this just keeps going on and on. You see the same people in traffic, you see the same scenery. A lot of times the radio stations just keep sounding like it's on repeat. Everything goes on and on. You roll into work, you say, good morning, Bob. Hello, Jim. All those things are a scenario where it's just rinse, lather, repeat. And if anything is Groundhog Day, it's the working life. And that gets stale beyond. That is sapped the living lifeblood out of a person. Out of me, it did, certainly. There was a time when I really loved my work, when it was fresh and new. And I've always said this with your job. it's not even about the job so much as it is about the people you work with. And I've always said this. I mean, you've got to like the underlying concept of what you're doing. Sure, absolutely. You went to school for it, you learned it, you became good at it, ideally. But I've always said that you could be shoveling crap on the end of a banjo all day long, or on the end of a suck hose because you're doing the honey wagon. Doesn't matter. But if you're working with fun people, if you're working with quality people, if you're working with people you enjoy and they're respectful and it's fun and you're sharing laughs and stories, it's not a job. It's a fun place to be. And it becomes partially the social atmosphere that a lot of people gravitate to, and they almost get addicted to that. And I had jobs like that many years ago. I would say go back 20 years ago. I had such a job, and there was a time, probably for about 5 years in my working career, where I was on cloud nine in terms of that situation, working with some of the best people, the most fun, exciting work, interesting work, dynamic changes, traveling. It was a really, really interesting time, and I had a lot of fun people that were all in the same mindset. And so I loved it. And so it wasn't like Groundhog Day, but all too often, you go sit in your cubicle, or you stand on the assembly line, or you do that construction thing, and maybe you're a tradesperson and you install the 2000th receptacle for this job, or maybe you've run 5,000 meters of copper pipe, or you've put up how many bricks on that brick wall. It's just rinse, lather, repeat. And that's all work. We trade time for money, and we all do it. You have to generate income somewhere. But in terms of what it's doing for your soul, and it's sapping it out of you. And it did to me over and over and over. And I felt like it was just draining me to a point where I couldn't. Something drastic, let's put it this way. Something serious was going to happen if I kept trying to go down this path for another few years. And it wouldn't have been good. And I don't even know how to say that, but that's just what it is. It's a sad, sad state that people get in these loops. And that's where I was at, this loop, this Groundhog Day. And it was just toxic, nasty, Groundhog Day and stale. It was. And so that's the conundrum. That's the problem. And that's why that's the Groundhog Day. So to the question, am I traveling? Am I abroad doing all these things? Well, kind of, yeah. Not entirely. It's not a constant. And while I'd love to, part of the challenge right now, my wife's working. I have kids, that some are minors, some aren't. And so there's a variety of different things going on between school and work and all these things. So I'm in this, and I've mentioned this before, I'm in this sort of like gap phase. I'm in this transition phase where, I'm retired, they're not, but I'm sort of ramping up and doing some of my own side hustle stuff to sort of generate. And so if you want to break it down and try to understand what a boring life and a stale life I might have, let me just say, like right after this, because I love doing this and I love chatting to each and every one of you. And I truly can't believe how blessed I am to be able to talk about openly about some of these things that people are scared to talk about. And I don't care. I honestly, I met somebody here recently that was sort of in my circle, more on not a professional level so much, but certainly in a slightly reserved circle, somebody that's professional, wears suits every day to work and that. We had a conversation and he came across these videos and he was actually a little bit surprised that I actually opened up as much as I do. And he said, that's great. And that's awesome to see and hear. And he said, that's a lot to share. And I totally agree. But a lot of people don't like talking about this stuff. And it's so important that we do and we share this information because everybody keeps it bottled up inside. People, deal then with mental health, struggles. They turn this inwards, and then stress and anguish and anxiety and turns into other problems. Why can't we just talk about this? And here's why I'm talking about retirement getting stale. It can get stale. But let me just say, I haven't had a boring week yet, okay? And I've been at this now for 5 months. Now, my circumstances are different from the next person to the next person. Everybody's going to have their own sets of challenges. I could see some people kind of as they wind down, maybe, getting into a renovation project in the home, or fix that old car up, or again, doing knitting, or maybe selling products at a farmer's market, or in my case, do a little social media and make a couple of dollars on the side, whatever it is. So let me just break this down. What does my week look like? Well, this week, I won't go every week, but right after I get off this video, I continue on for about another 10-minute walk. I get home. I then basically start to edit this video, upload it. I start to work on another video. I usually go hit another video for a different channel I run. And so that's where I'm at. Then a couple days this week, I did some thumbnail. I do my own thumbnails, and I start going down that ave. I do some editing and thumbnails, and that kind of varies between the day and when my editor kind of sends them down the road. So I'm often kind of bouncing around Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday in there, doing a little combination of editing and thumbnail construction. This week, of course, I was also setting up 2 to 3 days. We were setting up our RV, heading off to the mountains, which we're going to do some camping here coming up very, very soon. So it's kind of getting stuff set up there and fixing it up, cleaning things up and getting it ready for the trip. So that's part of what I was doing this week, as well as I had to make a couple trips to the bank and courthouse. I had meetings, yet because I'm dealing with my parents' affairs, we know about that. So that kept me going. Then I had to change a set of tires. So I had an appointment to change tires on my truck. So I spent a couple hours down at the tire shop there. Also had a meeting online with a business arrangement here for some future work for the social media. So I had a meeting there. And in between there, honestly, I don't even have time. I'm just going to say it. I rarely have time to even stop for lunch or a coffee break, because I go from one to the next to the next. And I vowed to myself, as I transition into retirement, I'm going to be as absolutely productive as I physically possibly can. Not just from a creativity perspective or monetization or trying to earn a little bit, but even just try to constantly in a state of learning. So I'm not in this flux and I'm not in this floating state of confusion and loss. So I have literally swapped my time, which all pays for the government and taxation. And we know in, the Canadian system, it's pretty aggressive. Most people are in that 42 to 48% tax bracket right off the top for income tax. Then you have this carbon tax. Then you have GST, PST, HST, depending on what you're buying and the goods and services. There's taxes on cigarettes and booze. There's taxes on house taxes, property taxes, and every one of these houses, including ours, you have to pay property taxes, tax. And so realistically, if you really break this down, you're not making a ton. So the more you spend, the more you earn, and the more you buy, the more you get taxed. And so there's this sort of shift in mindset for me that maybe even if I earn a little less, quite a bit less, it's actually not that bad, because I'm also not spending it on the back end buying frivolous garbage and eating out 3 times a day. So I'm finding myself doing things and swapping my time for things that I'd rather do, and be more productive in other ways. I have to take care of. These are personal matters, family matters that I have to deal with. And being that I'm the sort of the head, the lead of that, and I've been appointed as such, it's not something I walk away from. So at the end of the day, I've got constant things to do, this creativity that's always tapping in. And honestly, I'm finding myself busier and busier every single day, every single week. And if it's not meetings, it's trip to the banks. It's not that, it's do a little editing, it's filming, it's you name it. I am busy and I love it. I'm keeping very active, very busy. I do my walks. I'm eating better. I'm eating and exercising. And so I you know what? Let's just put it this way. I'm in the jet stream, if I can say that. I'm in the jet stream. So, I hope that shares a little bit for you. If anybody's wondering, does this get stale? It certainly can. And that's a risk. But I'll tell you this much for free. As soon as I get off the phone here, I'm going to be heading off and just visualize me banging away on the keyboard, doing editing, uploading, and I'm on to the next project. So love to hear your story. If you're retired, what are you finding to do to keep your days busy? I mean, everybody has their own story, picking up hobbies and that, but I'd love to hear it. And on top of that as well, do be sure to subscribe. We'll talk to each and every one in the next one. See you real soon. Bye-bye.